Hello and welcome to our Analytics Breakthrough webinar series. We're excited to have June Dershewitz with us today. Hi, June.
Hello, glad to be here.
Excellent. And we have a very exciting topic, advanced attribution. Everybody talks about attribution, and hopefully you'll leave the webinar today with some practical tips on what to do with attribution and how to help impact the business. This is Faris Al-Halou, co-author of our GUI Analytics Breakthrough book and a co-founder at Enor. With me is my colleague and friend Eric Fettman, also a co-author of the book, and he heads our training practice, and he is a coach. He likes to be the coach here. So, hi Eric.
Hi Faris, hi June, and welcome folks who are joining.
I think for the folks in the analytics space, you probably know June already, and in case you didn't, June is an industry friend and a friend, and known her for a number of years. Met her at many of the Digital Analytics Association events. She's currently she's in terms of she's been on both on the consulting side and as a practitioner, so she's seen it from. I guess, I don't know, June, were you at the vendor side at all?
I have never worked for a vendor. No, okay, only consulting and practitioner.
Excellent. So she brings both perspectives. She's the head of data governance and analytics at Twitch. I think everyone knows what Twitch is and does, especially those of us who are into gaming. And again, she brings a lot of depth to the industry. I would say, again, she's very active within the analytics community. She was on the DAA board. I know she's involved in almost every time we have an activity here in the Bay Area. So thank you so much, June, for everything you do for the community. And for now, we definitely want to get into your contribution to the book about attribution. So Eric, you want to take it from here?
Sure. Thank you, Faris. Folks, if you have questions for June, please make sure to enter them into the question panel in GoToWebinar, and we will, excuse me, we will make sure to monitor those. So June is here to talk about a very interesting, thorny, can we say thorny? I don't know if thorny is the right word.
You can. Oh, no, it is.
Okay, so we're a thorny challenge that we are facing more and more in analytics, and that is real advanced attribution. There are a few holy grails in analytics, online, offline. Attribution is definitely one of them, and becoming more and more of an imperative for us as analysts. So June has really been in the trenches, and she's here to share some valuable lessons with us on many levels as far as implementing an advanced attribution program. So we're going to go ahead and just show the contribution in Google Analytics Breakthrough that June was nice enough to contribute. So June, could we start here? Could you walk us through the four questions to ask before you tackle advanced attribution? Let's bump this up a little bit.
Sure, I'll be glad to do that. So when I wrote this article, it was all based on some really in-depth hands-on experience I had at my last company rolling out an advanced attribution platform for us that covered both media mix modeling for digital plus offline advertising, as well as granular cross-channel digital attribution, and it was thorny, as you said, but I learned a lot of things along the way. The first, and each of these points reflects something I learned from going through that process. On the first point, I will say, before you go down this path to say, it's time to tackle advanced attribution, figure out whether your marketing strategy is complex enough to even merit it. It helps if you have a substantial spend in paid marketing, because one of the main benefits of attribution platforms is it will allow you to optimize your spend. So if your spend is very small, the investment may not be worth it. Right. On the second point, think about the added value you're going to get from advanced attribution, because you can spend all this time getting the system afloat and finding out like how what the interplay is like between all of your different marketing channels, and it can be kind of interesting, but is it useful? You know, if all you're doing is making reports, you have failed, right? For digital attribution, one of the benefits that you can get is a tie-in back to your bidding platform, so that your bidding is optimized based on holistic view into your marketing spend, not just that one particular channel. Right, that I see it as true value from advanced attribution, not just making reports.
Right. It's even for any implementation, it's not the effort that goes into the implementation. It's what actions you can derive from it, and that's not a given. Mm-hmm. Regardless of the tool or regardless of the sophistication of your implementation.
Right.
So, question 3, June.
All right. 3. Do you really have what it takes to get this program launched and maintained in terms of attention and bandwidth? Right. It takes a real cross-section of skills, data fluency, marketing fluency, being able to talk to all kinds of technical and non-technical people, and it can take a long time. And so you can't, if you decide to work with a third party to help you enable advanced attribution, it's not something that you can hand over to that consultancy or that vendor and say, hey, you guys figure it out, you do it, and not expect to be deeply involved in it on your side. I think any successful advanced attribution program is going to need to have strong support on the client side, because you're the ones who understand your business. It may be very well likely that you'll involve an external party as well, but you need to work hand in hand with them over a long period of time. So you got to be prepared for that.
So, June, even if you are working with a vendor, and let's say that you do have the executive support that you need, and the executive support that is warranted based on the level of value that your advanced attribution can bring you, but assuming that that's the case, that you're kind of a viable candidate for advanced attribution, you have the executive support, what are the skill sets that are needed internally? Let's say if you're dealing with a client, if you're dealing with a vendor, or if you were doing some kind of homegrown advanced attribution.
What are the skills that you would need?
Well, yeah, what are the skills? What are the roles that would typically be involved?
Oh, got it. Got it. So I think that you need your executive sponsor. They're funding the whole thing. They're making sure that it gets visibility and that it gets used. Beyond that, you need a day-to-day program manager who's going to bring everything together and make sure that stuff gets done, and that there's a roadmap and that you're honoring that roadmap. And then usually there's a more technical person who understands source systems really well and has some technical data skills so that they can pull stuff together and modify data if necessary and deal with large volumes of data. And then separate from that, and especially later on once you've got your system up and running, you most certainly need to have a marketing analyst involved who understands both the marketing subject matter and understands the importance of using data to drive action. And so you may have different people involved at different stages in this process. The technical resource will be certainly more involved early on, and then the marketing analyst will be more involved ongoing.
And from the technical end, someone with a lot of like data transformation experience, database, more the database end or more the coding end, or combination?
Well, for us, it was for the digital attribution piece specifically. It was understanding how web technology works and ad tech in particular. We had some speed bumps along the way when we were implementing digital attribution, where we had some tags that weren't firing properly, and so we had. I was holding the technical role and other roles actually for our project, but I identified this weakness and then got other people involved who could help troubleshoot in depth even more. So those people were front-end developers and people with ad tech background. So I think having someone in a technical position who knows who else to involve when other problems arise is useful, because problems could be broad. You know, like I said, if you're dealing with implementing tags, you need someone who understands ad tech. If you're talking about, say, pulling down large volumes of search bidding data from a Redshift cluster that you maintain, you need someone with database skills.
And thanks, June. And this is, I think, our experience working with different clients. It's, I think, where we see success is where there's an understanding, I think, at the executive level, and then also sort of from the ground up, that you have to tackle this problem, with different resources, different skill sets. So it's just not one. You hire one person for attribution, and you buy some technology, and you're done. I think it's understanding what you said earlier, the program management, and what resources is needed when, and have those lined up. I think that's key. I know this is maybe boring stuff. It's not as sexy as talking about optimization and improving impact to the bottom line. But if you don't have that, I think, infrastructure in place, it's almost very difficult, if not impossible, to get some traction with attribution.
Yeah, and especially since there are different skills needed at different portions in the life cycle of this project, I think it would still be a problem if you were, you said, oh, I'm going to hire a database jockey to manage my attribution platform, and then you didn't invest in having an analyst who understood marketing and understood the business. You wouldn't ever be able to get the actionability out of it, which is the whole point.
Yeah, I remember you and I one time we were having a chat, and you mentioned, trying to remember exactly what you said in terms of that you have the data pipe, right? And yeah, someone is throwing all that data at you, but there's not a whole lot of context, about the business or what this data means. It's going to be really difficult to make sense of all of that. So I think having the marketing analyst, or if you're doing sometimes back end, if there's some back end data, CRM or otherwise, someone who understands what this data represent, that is, I think that's going to be really key as well.
Yeah, definitely. I will say also that marketing channel managers also play a really, really important role here. And I guess that it depends on how large your company is, but say you have substantial paid marketing investment, you will likely have people in place who are your paid search channel manager, and your social channel manager, and your display channel manager, and the offline. I mean, you might have a whole division who runs TV, and all of those people need to be working together and understanding the value they can get from advanced attribution as well. Because if your system that you're putting together spits out a score, and that score is adjusted value based on holistic view of all marketing spend, you need to use that to optimize the spend. And who optimizes the spend? It's the channel managers. And so actually we ran into some problems along the way because we had some staff turnover in channel management, and that created some difficulties for us, because when we had new people put in place in those roles, we then had to educate them and say, don't just optimize spend for your marketing channel alone. We want you to look at the holistic view using this platform.
And so that's when it could get a bit sensitive, right? Is there, in your experience, June, is sort of one person sort of being the arbitrator, or is it someone sort of every channel is, vying for more budget, of course, and they don't want to get their budget cut, is sort of from your experience, who's calling the shot?
Because if last click attribution is working in your favor. Yeah.
It's very political, actually, because if you approach a channel manager and say, look, this is your channel's true contribution, and it winds up being less than what last click says their contribution is, they're not going to necessarily be too warmed up to that. And that actually feeds into my last point of the 4 points, which is, do your executives agree that this is important? Executives on down, I would say, but if you don't have executive buy-in, it may not even be it may not be time for you to make that investment yet. So the company that I was at where I was doing this, I was working for the chief digital officer, and he had control over our digital marketing channels. And then at a certain point, he got a promotion. He became the CMO, and becoming the CMO meant that he took on ownership of digital channels and offline channels. And at that point, he said, look, we need to tackle advanced attribution. And it was the right time to do that, in my mind, because I think I'd seen previously other medium mix modeling initiatives that were taken on by, say, just the people who managed TV spend. But they had no understanding of digital marketing. And so when they produced this model and said, this is how we should think about marketing strategy, the digital people didn't even want to listen. They're like, you don't even understand us. You're offline people, right? But if you get the executives hopefully in agreement, or if you have one executive who controls all digital and offline, all the better, get that person to agree, then it makes it for an easier conversation when you go to your search channel manager and we say, look, we want you to use this to optimize your spend. They're not going to give you as much pushback because it's their CMO telling them they need to do that for the good of everyone.
And June, on the topic of offline, I think a lot of us who have worked with digital analytics and digital marketing channels have a pretty good conception of how you could model attribution with that kind of hard digital data. I think more of us struggle with offline. How could you just give us some foundations for offline attribution and how that, and in your experience, the degree to which offline and online have worked together in your attribution analysis?
Sure. It's a little tricky, and it took me some time to wrap my head around how it all could fit together. In part because I have a background in digital, and so I'm used to being able to track every single interaction a customer has digitally with your marketing material. And so I'm thinking about, oh my God, how do we even think about billboards? What does a sports sponsorship mean to us? What is that worth? Getting to know people in direct mail and the way that they think about the success of their program, and the data is very different. It comes in at a different cadence and a different granularity. There are certain things that you can know about TV advertising that come in once a month, not like the second it gets executed. So, but the kinds of things that you do when you're optimizing across an entire portfolio, digital and offline, are different than the tactics that you would employ when you're looking at digital only. Like I talked about earlier, digital, you could feed it into bidding platforms and optimize your spend that way in real time, and you should be if you're doing cross-channel digital attribution. I think that should be a goal. But if you're looking at digital and offline, the way that becomes valuable is in either your monthly or quarterly planning meetings that in my case at my last company, it was the marketers and people in finance working together to say, what's our marketing budget this quarter, and how are we going to portion this off into digital and offline, and within offline, like how much should we spend on TV? How do we know how much that's worth to us? And those were conversations that were had with, like I said, leaders in marketing and finance, and then all of the marketing channel managers. And it was important for them when they were getting together to have those conversations to be armed with data, right, rather than just expressing their opinions. And so having this attribution platform in place gave them that tool. And so they could make smarter decisions about like how much each of their marketing tactics was worth. And one particular example here that I thought was kind of interesting that showed the interplay between digital and offline we'd never seen before. We had offline advertising in the form of print publications. They were like trade magazines, and we were advertising in those. And through our attribution solution, we were able to see that there was interplay between those print advertisements and organic search. And so print advertising wound up being a more valuable channel for us than we had previously considered. But if we had just looked at Last Touch, we would have seen organic search being the valuable channel. But it was we were able to give shared credit then between organic search and print advertising.
Yeah, and I think that's what we're trying to get at with the interplay between offline and online. I mean, if we're just looking at an analytics tool, if we just say Google Analytics as a random example, we could say, okay, well, we're going to annotate when we send out a mailing, and maybe we could have a mailing with a campaign tag link. We could do a campaign tag redirect and see how many sessions that we get based on that, but that still doesn't in any way account for the people who had an impression, a live impression of the mailing, and who were influenced maybe to take another a digital to complete a digital interaction. So I think, being able to see the influence of one over the other, that's what we're trying to get to.
Yeah, definitely. And it's those higher funnel channels or the kind of assist channels that tend to get undervalued if you're looking at just last click, right? Search is very immediate, and it's easy to show that as in the last click model. This search led to this purchase, right? But there are a lot of things that can happen before a person decides that they're going to enter a keyword and click search, right? And it could be they saw a billboard, or they saw a print publication, or maybe they saw something on social. And so all of those things get I think more fair credit when you're looking holistically across all of your channels.
And some of this offline data, I mean, just to add to what Eric was saying, thanks June, is it's sometimes hard to get. Like, we have a client, they're a national brand with a lot of franchise stores, and I think all of the spend is digital, but it's hard to, I mean, in terms, somebody just walks in to make a reservation, getting that data from this lead that comes in, and feeding that back into your system is also, technology is important, but also giving it, training your people to kind of capture, asking this person, how did you find out about us? Is it so the person in charge of attribution, their BI person is saying that, he said our local, they don't have any billboards or anything. He said our local signs must be doing a lot of good work for us, because everybody just sees the signs and walks in. So they know it's all digital because that's what they spend their money, but it's sometimes hard to just figure out what led to that walk-in.
Yeah, definitely. Yeah, and getting the data is hard. for offline especially, it was a learning experience for me to find out where that data lives and what it looks like. And for our company, we were working with a number of advertising agencies to handle different portions of our digital and offline, and they all kept records of the spend and sometimes performance as well. And so it was a matter of tracking all of those down and understanding the shape that their data was in, and then making sure that we had like the full manifest of everything we needed to feed into our model every month, so that we could come into the marketing planning meeting informed. And so that's why I think the program management piece of it really came into play, where it was like, all right, let's figure out even what our sources are and where they come from and who gives them to us on what cadence. And can we automate some? Can we not automate some? Why? You know, and gathering all of that together as the inputs for the model itself takes a lot of effort, but you've got to believe that it's going to be worthwhile if you are investing in it, right? So that's what you're signing up for if you decide you're ready for advanced attribution. If you have, as I've said, substantial marketing spend, then it's absolutely worth doing. You can't be flying blind there, but you got to be prepared.
Of course, no, absolutely. So I know we have a few more minutes before we wrap up here. We're at the 4 minutes exactly. Eric, do we have any other questions for June?
Question about TV. You mentioned TV as a channel, June. What two questions? One more specific and one broader. What does TV, the raw TV data feed look like? Yeah, I think you mentioned that it's not something that you get necessarily on a regular basis. It may just be on maybe monthly intervals. So what does that look like? And broadly, in your experience on the actual analysis part of the attribution, what were both trends that you observed, surprises that you saw in the trends, or specific points that you saw that you or other people on your team thought were surprising, that, and I guess if it's a surprise, it leads to insight. So specific question about the TV channel, and then just questions about trends and surprises and insights.
Okay. So for TV, it took the form of the type of content that was being broadcast. So like what channel it was on or whatever. The time of day. Time of day is super important for TV. I hadn't realized this, but they have all this day parting that they do. The campaign that the advertisement was a part of, and digital, we think about campaign coding all the time, but slightly different for TV. Still, you want to know it was part of some
That's right.
campaign.
That's right. We tend to think of campaigns as digital only, but you're right.
And another important factor for us was it brand advertising, or was it direct response? Like what was the call to action in the advertisement?
Right.
And then what did we pay for it?
Okay.
That's generally the shape of TV.
That's the schema, basically.
Yeah. And to the other question about surprising insights, I think that it was it's always tough. It had been tough for us at the company I was at to truly figure out the value of social advertising and display advertising and how that fit in, because it was kind of dwarfed by the last click performance of search. And it wasn't like when we were looking at cross-channel attribution, that the tide turned and it flipped, and oh my God, it's all display, it's not search. Search was still incredibly valuable, but there were pockets of display and social that stood out as being valuable and allowed us to shape our strategies for those channels based on what we saw to be effective when we were looking cross-channel. So I think that over time we'd kind of underinvested in social and display because they weren't showing that last click performance that we were hoping for. But as a result of that underinvestment, weren't even looking into the areas where they actually were performing. And part of it was just like getting all the right people in the room to have the channel managers across all the different channels come together. And it was a brokering thing. It was like, hey, search, are you willing to give up a small portion of your search budget to contribute to testing that we want to do in display? And as long as search was still able to meet their stated goals, then they were willing to do that. And part of that, we were even, by the time I was transitioning out of the project, we were getting to the point where we were like, all right, we're going to use our new attribution methodology to have another view into the goals that we set for our channel managers, so that they're not penalized if they don't meet their last click goal. Because it's not about one channel manager's last click goal, it's about the goal of the entire program and optimizing across that entire program. And everyone has to believe that.
Right. So
that's fascinating. That's really, you know, I mean, you can talk about technology and data all day long, but if the culture isn't there for you to have that brokering, you know, everybody would be sort of optimizing in a silo that could probably be, you know, not as effective for the overall, you know, team. So it's really, I find that fascinating, the ability to kind of get people together and have that kind of culture to focus on the end, you know, end prize collectively, not just sort of in silos. So no, thanks for sharing that.
Yeah, gladly.
So hire cooperative marketing channel managers. That's step one.
Yeah, and really get them to be okay with meeting goals and targets that are set for the entire marketing budget and not just their channel.
Right, right. It sounds like you really just have to adopt a completely different mindset.
Well, thank you so much, June. I know we're running out of time here. We appreciate your contribution to the book, as we said earlier, and contribution to the community and all the great stuff you're doing at Twitch there. So keep us posted on the latest. And for additional information, Eric, you have that on the slide. Yeah.
Connect with June on LinkedIn. June assures us that she's the only June Dershewitz on LinkedIn. So if you search for her
in the world,
there, you'll be able to connect with her and stay connected with us at eNOR on the eNOR blog and through the Analytics Breakthrough webinar series, and also stay connected with the industry by joining Digital Analytics Association, attending local and national Digital Analytics Association events. They're our advocacy group. They do a lot for us, so we should support them as well, the way that they support us. And if you haven't picked up a copy of Google Analytics Breakthrough, please do. We were very happy to have June and other industry luminaries contribute to the book, and we have gotten a very good reception overall. So please pick up your copy, and thank you for listening and attending today.
Thank you so much.
Yeah, thank you, Eric and Ferris. It's been a pleasure.
All right,
Thank
have a
you,
good one.
June. Bye-bye.
Bye.